$2.1 trillion. That's how much money Norway has saved from its oil industry. 2.1 trillion for a country with just 5.5 million people. Norway didn't spend its oil wealth, it invested it year after year, decade after decade. Today, that fund is so large, it works out to roughly 380,000 in national wealth for every citizen. Now, here's the interesting part. Alberta has almost the same population and some of the largest oil reserves on Earth. So the real question becomes, what could Alberta build if more of the wealth created here actually stayed here? This isn't going to be a political video, it's going to be about economics. So over the next few videos, I'm going to walk through the numbers behind a conversation that's becoming more and more common in Alberta. How wealth flows through Canada's system, what Alberta's economy actually looks like, and what options exist for the future. But to understand that conversation, we first need to understand Norway. Now, Norway's fund is called the Government Pension Fund Global. It's now the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world. And the concept was simple. Oil revenues go into the fund, period. The fund invests globally in companies, bonds, and assets, and only a small portion of the returns are used each year. So the wealth continues to grow. Over time, Norway turned its oil production into something much larger, a national savings account. Today, the fund owns stakes in thousands of companies around the world and is valued at more than $2 trillion. Which means every Norwegian citizen is effectively backed by hundreds of thousands of dollars in national wealth. Now, Alberta is actually in a somewhat similar position in many ways. We have one of the largest oil reserves on Earth. We have a population of about 4.5 million people, and our economy is worth roughly $360 billion per year. Energy production here creates enormous economic activity. Oil companies operate here. Workers earn high wages. Businesses grow around the industry. All of that economic activity generates revenue for governments. But here's an important point. Alberta collects the royalties from oil production because in Canada, natural resources belong to the government. However, the economic activity created by Alberta's energy industry, also generates federal taxes. When economists compare the full picture, how much federal tax revenue comes out of Alberta versus how much federal spending comes back, Alberta has consistently been one of the largest net contributors in Canada. The exact number changes year to year, depending on oil prices and economic activity. But some estimates put that gap at around $28 billion per year. Now, to be clear, Alberta does not write a check for equalization. Equalization is funded from federal tax revenues, but because Alberta generates such a large share of Canada's tax revenue, a significant portion of that revenue ends up being spent somewhere else in the country. And that's where the conversation begins. If Alberta contributes tens of billions more to the federal system than it receives back each year, what would happen if even a portion of that capital stayed here? What could it fund? Infrastructure, healthcare, lower taxes, or long-term investment funds like Norway built? Over 10 years, $28 billion per year becomes $280 billion, simple math. Over 20 years, it's more than $500 billion. That's the kind of capital that can transform an economy. Now, this series isn't about arguing one side or the other. It's about understanding the economics. Because when people talk about Alberta's future, a lot of questions come up. Is Alberta's economy big enough? What about trade? What about currency? What about pensions? Over the next few videos, we're going to walk through each one of those questions one by one. Corporate income taxes, personal income taxes from workers, GST from economic activity, billions of dollars flowing to Ottawa each year. Starting with something that surprises many people. Alberta's economy is actually larger than several independent countries, and that's where the conversation really gets interesting. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.